Hello, welcome to the next part of my short series on whether or not I can take a relatively inexpensive outboard, fix it, get it back on its feet or on its propeller. And then also at the same time, can I take a Porta-Bote, which is one of my favourite little fold-up boats, an old one, cheap, and fix it. Fix the transom, which is the classic problem that occurs with them.
I thought I should just cover why I'm bothering to do it actually. It just occurred to me. So, family holidays, often we'll try and take some time off where we're near water, or we can go on a bit of a family adventure, I guess. Nothing too serious. And it's always nice to have a boat with us, and what we found is that the little fold-up boat is awesome. So it just goes on the roof of the van, or actually one of the cars, and when we drop it off into the water at whatever venue we've ended up at, it's just so easy to live with, super tough. You don't worry about piercing the thing or breaking anything. Gives me a chance to play with a few things. I like my outboard motors just to tinker with. And it's whether my wife's going swimming or my son wants to go out and do a bit of adventuring around some of the islands or whatever. It's good. And it's early memory stuff for me. So my son and I have been having little mini adventures together since he was a young man. And as I get a bit older, it's just one of those important things to keep doing, I think.
Too dark. What are you doing, Thomas?
My eyes are on fire.
I can see that. Why are we doing? What are we doing?
I can see now.
So the Porta-Bote is a really useful little boat if you're occasionally getting to the water and doing a bit of fishing, which is really all I use it for, a bit of family fun. So what I've done, I've got one that's functional, but the transom is gone. I've patched it up, it kind of works, doesn't leak, but it's a bit rough and ready. So what I thought I'd do is try my hand at replacing the sheet, or the bladder, some people call it, but basically the part of the back of the Porta-Bote that folds up nice and neat to allow it to fold so thin. So what I did was I went on and I bought, I think it was £150. I bought a 12-foot Porta-Bote with a broken transom, or at least a split, which hopefully will allow me to see whether or not I can effect a good repair. And if I can repair this one, then the theory is I can repair the other one, and then I've got two Porta-Botes. So at the moment, it stands me in at £150. So let's just see how long it takes me to get my head around how to fix it, can I fix it, and then once I've fixed it, is it good enough to use on the water? So I'm not an expert on Porta-Botes. I've only had one and I haven't used it extensively. This is my second one, which, as I've explained, I bought for a pretty cheap price because it was damaged and the previous owner was unsure. It's actually missing a few bits, which I'll sort, but he was unsure about whether he could repair it. So just a super quick look, and if you're watching this, you're probably a Porta-Bote loony as well, or at least you're thinking about buying one or repairing one. So I'm going to try and video the repair process of the transoms, which is what we're looking at here. As I say, I'm not an expert, but the boats are made of an amazing material. It's really resilient to so many different things, chemicals, weather, most importantly stresses and folding action. It's really quite some material. But anyway, this thin piece at the back, I think some people call it the bladder, but basically the bit that keeps the water out when it rests up against the transom when it's in place, fractures and goes. And you can understand why. It's about 1.5 mil thick. It's quite thin, which allows it to be very flexible and folded in this fashion, but they do fracture. So one that I see an awful lot in pictures, I guess, and what I've seen on my own boats is this centerpiece here must be under an awful lot of pressure. And I think when they're folded, actually, I wonder whether it's the mechanical action of constant folding and unfolding, more so when they're folded tight shut. I'm sure these parts are under constant tight pressure, and that eventually makes itself known. So that's one part, and then you'll also get these ripping. This one's ripped. and of course no good, not very waterproof, watertight I should say, and will eventually just go all the way to the bottom. So this whole piece needs to be removed, which is going to be the next thing that I do. I'll probably make a template up, and then I've bought a new piece of material, same material, I couldn't find it in green, so I've got a black sheet, quite a large sheet, so I might, once I get it sorted from a template point of view, I might make a few. And it'll be fun just taking it apart, seeing how they've done it. I think it's going to be fairly labour intensive but relatively straightforward, but we'll follow the process, and yeah, I hope you find it useful if I do a good job of doing it. So clearly I'm cheating here because I'm borrowing a forklift truck and I've got quite a bit of space. But I think everything I'm doing can be done in your average garage if you spend a bit of time cleaning it perhaps. But what I wanted to look at was the process for removing the membrane, the bladder, the sheet at the back here. And the way that it was originally manufactured looks to be a series of rivets and I'm assuming stainless steel staples, and then you've got the protective rubber tube, which is incredibly strong, in place with, again, rather large aluminium rivets, which I'll really struggle to find replacements for, but I'm sure I can find something that's just as good or looks okay and is strong enough. So the first thing I've got to do is start to take it apart, build it down, just gently have a look and see how things have gone together. The Facebook Porta-Bote site is absolutely brilliant. People have put so much effort into trying to explain what they've done. The reason I thought I'd do a video was it's not easy to find it on YouTube or any of the other medias to actually see somebody take it apart and really do it. So I hope I do it justice, but yeah, this is the starting point. I'm going to get it upside down just to get access to what I'm looking at. And then obviously I can play with the height a little bit here, which makes it easier to try and get that removed. So I'll start stepping you through the process as I get on with it. Taking the rivets out. Seems like the easiest thing to start doing at the moment. These are huge, these things. I think it's about 40 mil across, so I've never used a rivet like this. So, lovely aluminium rivets, I have to say. Easy enough. I'm just trying not to damage the rubber or any of the boat parts as I go through with the drilling process, because it just makes the holes too big. So, trying to avoid that. But looks like this is going to be a relatively easy process. So, I'm just going to use this 6mm drill, fairly slow, just to remove the tops of these without damaging the sheet. And cuts through very quickly, removing the heads. And then there's some slightly larger ones, or certainly there are here anyway, which I'm just going to move up a drill size on. So you don't need a lot of speed for this, they're very soft, and it gives you that option to release the drill back if things go wrong or it starts to wander off. But that all looks relatively easy. Some of these will have to be done from the reverse side. Just because of the way that they were put in. But so far so good. This is really tough. Moving this is going to be fun. I'm not quite sure whether to just get to it with a big screwdriver, but it's really thick pipe. Anyway, we'll see. What is worth remembering is a lot of the rivets, the aluminium rivets, are supported from a surface area perspective, let me get the camera on that, sorry I'm wandering all over the place, with these stainless steel washers. So they need to go back into the right place. So effectively just the rivet on its own, typically I'm assuming wouldn't give it a big enough head to resist being pulled through. So they put it through these stainless steel washers, which is great. Just need to remember where they are, so they'll put them back in the right order. Just for consistency, the tubes that pull off at the top, obviously exactly the same. Once you've taken the big aluminium rivet out, just wedge it open and it pulls out, and you end up with it looking like this, and it's quite happy then, I think, to rest out of the way whilst we continue the rest of the work. So I'm just going to lift the staples a little bit all the way across, and then I'll straighten them out with a pair of pliers or cutters actually, so that they're mostly straight, so when I flip the boat I'll be able to prise those out without doing too much damage to the hull. It's really quite a laborious process, and these staples are obviously stainless steel, as you might expect, but they're very strong. It's not something I think you'd expect to rush through, and you have to be a little bit careful. I think probably not on this side where the transom's going to be replaced anyway, but I can imagine pulling from the other side, which is effectively the skin of the boat. You need to be a little bit careful. This material is brilliant that it's made of, the boat's made of, but it's not impervious to sharp objects and hammers. So I've straightened them, or lifted them I should say, and now I'm going through and straightening all of the staples so they can be pulled through properly. And probably a bit like watching this video, this is quite a few hours work that I'm not going to get back out of my life, but you know, I think it'll be okay. It's just every single one seems to need a little bit of attention, so it's taken quite a while, but it's not technically difficult. Okay, so all the staples have been lifted, slightly straightened, and then the theory is now I can start to feel it out of the rest of the boat, or the bladder out of the rest of the boat. So I did start just in case I messed it up, but so as you probably saw there, it's a bit of a struggle for the corners, having never done it before. I just used a relatively wide screwdriver, flat blade, to prise it out of this joint here. So carry on. Aha! So, on transom, I've deliberately chosen to leave the staples in, don't try and pull them out first. And the reason I did that was because the outside, although this is amazing material, it will leave small marks, and I don't think that's necessary. So I'm taking the opportunity to use as least stress as possible to then pull these through the boat and hopefully reuse those holes, if I'm careful, with the new staples.
Just going to quickly jump in there. I actually found trying to match the holes with the staple gun I was using was a disaster. They went off at all sorts of strange angles. I pitched between them in the end.
So that was quite a difficult task actually, as it turned out. Not technically, just a lot of strength, a lot of thinking about it so you don't damage anything as you do it, but it wasn't too bad. What I would say is I definitely have a newfound respect for the strength of these fold-out boats, because the stainless steel staples that you remove as part of changing this out in this process are so strong, and it's so well held that you're absolutely sure you can get leaks and whatever else, but a major failure all of a sudden without some sort of visual fraction going on over a period of time before that, so you could see as a user that you thought there might be a problem with the boat, I'd say unlikely. So actually I'm a bit happier with it. That's the one thing about when you work on something in the detail that we're doing now, you start to really see the good and bad bits of the boat, but so far great. So just to recap, lots of stainless steel staples to remove. It's a bit laborious, it's not the end of the world, just drink lots of coffee. These corner pieces proved to be quite tricky, but that's because I didn't spread them out with a screwdriver to allow that to release. You don't really have to do very much as far as I can tell at this stage anyway, with the joint here, which I'm really pleased about because I was a bit worried about that, but it literally lays on top with a rubber gasket shape, which kind of helps to seal. So I'll show that as I put it back in. Yeah, my job now is just to get rid of all the gunk, and somebody's obviously tried to seal the hole that it had before, get rid of all of that off the deck, clean it all up, and then using this as a stencil would be to remake one of these, or probably a few of these, and I might use a CNC machine for this, just because then I've got the pattern and I can make one whenever I want really, but also I can measure these out and get all these holes pre-drilled, which will make it slightly easier when I'm trying to fit it back in. So yeah, that's where we are so far. So as promised, I said I was going to have a go at making my own replacement transom from the same material, so that turned up. Originally I thought I could do this, I'll just cut it and use a pair of scissors and yada yada, but actually, luckily, I have a Richard. Say hello, Richard.
Oh yeah.
So Richard's going to cut it out for us on our CNC machine. So we've basically put this into a CAD package. Let's cut the first one out and see if it cuts okay, and whether or not it's accurate. I cut a couple of pieces on our machine. This could be done by hand, but I didn't need to do that, so I didn't. This one I actually pre-drilled the holes, which may have been a bit of a mistake trying to line those up, and then I've got a blank one here, which I'm going to save to repair my 10-footer, which we haven't seen yet, which still functions, but it's got a lot of gunk and glue in all the holes to stop it from sinking. So here we are, I've cut the transom, which is looking awesome. I've got my friend Stu, who's just recording this. Thank you, Stuart. So I noticed on the kits you can buy, there's some score lines on it, and I'm not quite sure how they do it. I think with heat. So I thought I'd just prep mine by copying the same idea and using the marks on my old transom. So the only thing I can think of to do is to use a soldering iron to go across it. So let's give it a go and see how that works out. So I've got it up full. And I'm going on the reverse side, which I think is the right thing to do, of the fold, just to help it pull away, but also I think it gets less stress there than the other way around.
So I ended up completing this piece of work, but I didn't like it, didn't like the way that it worked. It wasn't actually that much easier to fold, and I did feel like I was probably damaging the sheet as I was going around doing that. I think if you've got no other method, it works, right? But I wasn't quite sure whether I'd actually was doing more damage that would show itself again as years go by. So in the end, I cheated, and we have another machine which I was playing with, which you'll see in a second, which made life a lot easier.
I'm going to use a new method for bending the sides of the transom, the bits that end up being stable to the boat. I used a soldering iron last time and scored it, which is okay. It was a bit tricky, if I'm honest, not to go too deep, and it was quite hard to form. So after I'd bent it, it tended to try and return to its original shape, which meant fitting it in the boat was a little harder than it needed to be, perhaps. So I'm going to take this material now and use this plastic bender. Not everybody has one of these, clearly, but we do in the business, and I thought I'd try it. Never used it on this material, but I'm kind of hoping it gives me a slightly better result than the previous method. Let's see. Going to give it a go now. I'm a bit nervous, but we'll see what happens. Going to use the matte side out. I think it looks better on the boat. Two sides of this material, shiny and matte. Keep the shiny side inside. Right, so let's preheat it. You can't see it, but there's a red hot heating element here, and it's got a water pump keeping the surrounding areas cool so that it actually folds directly on the line. So let's just hold that in there and warm it. You start to see it go actually on the line pretty quick. I mean, it's quite a hot element under there, so we're going to flip it now. Just get both sides done. Oh, come on. Ah. Now did it move? Right, let's go. Oh, nice. That's really soft. That's really soft. That's working pretty well. No, I'm happy with that. Let's just give that a little bit more heating there. So I can fold that over a bit more. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, well, that's great. Pretty successful bend. That's 100 times better than scoring it with a soldering iron or a hot rod or anything else. So I'm just going to flatten that down. It should bend again. Just get these sides done. Make sure I've got no high points. Done a very good job of the ears, which badly described, but when you fold this and you put it into the boat so that you can get it mounted correctly, there's these little pieces. The way it folds provides you with these little ears which you need to pin in, and I have to say, gosh, it was hard on using the soldering iron to do that, or to get it to form properly, but that's much better. I'm much happier with that. That's really cool. So, 2 down, 1 to go. Let's see if I can get the same result on this. And again, you know, that's getting those ears to go in was a real pain, but I'm not sure I'm describing that properly. But getting that fold, that particularly unusual fold, to work well was quite tricky, and I have to say that's working really well. So I'm super pleased with that. That's a really nice way to do it. So I really realise not everybody has a plastic folding machine at home, but if you can borrow one or go down to a local shop that's going to lend it to you, that's a 5-minute job compared to the effort I had to put into the last one. And I'm hoping that this will just be easier to hold and pin in the boat and get fitted as well. Really pleased with that. No, next stage. So put the transom down, scored the lines. It's a beautiful day here in the UK actually.
not good for ginger people, but it's okay. 30 degrees, so I've had the black sheet out in the sun and it made it much easier to start pre-folding it actually. So I ended up using the 3M VBH tape, which is really aggressive, so that was pretty good. Put it in lengths separately into the corners. These pieces down here are the tricky bits, I think, just because you've got to slightly separate it out with the screwdriver without ripping the staples out of the side seam, feed it in, and then pull the backing paper off the tape. If you get what I mean, whilst you're holding it slightly open, then it can close down, which I think helps. Bought a load of cheap clamps from eBay, which are really crucial actually. So I'm going to go along and put it down with clamps, and then the idea is, where I can, I'll transfer drill through the holes in the boat, because I didn't put holes in the back of the transom on this one, just in case there was any. It's all done by hand in the factory as far as I can tell, so, well, certainly this old one is, so they're not perfect. So I'm going to transfer drill through the existing holes and then rivet and hold it together with the stainless steel and the rivets first, and then I'm going to try and go along with the staple gun and pull that down. I'd prefer to go along in a great big line, but I don't think that's really possible. So there you go. So that's what I'm up to at the moment. I'll come back to when I've got a bit further. So I've been using a staple gun with some, I thought, stainless steel staples. Turns out to be the galvanized, which has really played with my happiness a little bit. But never mind, it's done. So I might just spray them, and goodness knows how long I'll leave it in the water, and maybe it'll be okay. Anyway, transom's kind of in. I'll show it to you in a second. Really bad job of stapling because they just keep collapsing. I'm getting the hang of it, and it's starting to work. So actually trying to use the original holes was turning out to be a nightmare. So I stopped doing that and just pitched them in between the original holes. Obviously got the VHP tape in there, so no problem. So much better. And actually the staples are going all the way through the thickness of the boat and the new bladder transom piece. It was a real fight to get the corners in. Lots of clamps, lots of leaving it in the hot sunshine to make the material malleable. Definitely the scoring, I hope that doesn't turn out to be a disaster as it goes through there, but the scoring was kind of almost essential really to get those pieces to fold in and go in. Yeah, it's good. It looks good if you don't look at the staples, but luckily most of those get hidden, so it'll be okay. So I'll just have a quick show of what it looks like now before I've finished and put the studs in and the rivets in to close it all together, but I guess I'm probably only an hour or two away from finished. It's cool. Yeah, so sorry, still in the back of the van just because it was good, convenient height-wise, and that's where I was storing it for a couple of days. So it's kind of in, and it looks all right actually. Bizarrely, looks much better than I thought it would. So I'm going to try and finish it off. Got this side here to staple, avoiding all the original holes so that it staples properly and closes it down. I am going along with a pair of pliers afterwards and just giving them a little feel closed. Prior to the stainless steel washers going back on with the rivets, yeah, it's looking pretty good actually. I'm kind of feeling much more confident that I can make it waterproof. So let's see, let's finish it off. So I fitted a new transom. There's a little bit of M3 5200 sealant around some of the areas I'm not concerned about, but thought could possibly produce the leaks. So transom's in, looks pretty good. A bit dusty, but it's pretty good. I'm just going to run some water into the back now and just see if there's any really obvious leaks. Here we are, filling it up. Nothing at the moment. Structurally strong, unlikely to fail quickly, and the odd little bit of mopping up to do. A bit of a fun boat, not the worst. Right, finished it. It's pretty leak-proof-ish. It's got a small leak, it's not a problem. what I haven't said is I've got 3 Porta-Botes. One that I haven't touched yet, which is the one I continue to use with some silicone in it to stop it leaking, which is currently in Scotland, I think. And then I bought 2 off of eBay, which are in bad condition, just because I wanted to try repairing them. Done the first one. The first one's a Series 3, so it's got a different rating label. It says 3 people rather than 4. It's got a different position for the transom mountings. In fact, I didn't get a transom with this one, so I'm having to manufacture one of those, which I'll do later in the month. But at the moment, I've just practiced fitting in the new transom skin, bladder, whatever people are calling it, and it's been pretty successful. I have to say, it was quite hard work, a lot of finger power required to get that done, and a few learning curves on the way, but it's been okay. So now I'm going to put that to one side, and I'm going to concentrate on this one, which is wobbly. That's a Series 4 or 5, if there was a Series 4, but it's a slightly more modern one. It's got a bigger transom. Missing a transom again, so I've got to actually make one of those. But I'm going to now use some of the skills and techniques that I've learned on the first one on this one, and we'll see how we get on. I'll try and record that, and it might be a bit more of a useful video for you to watch.
Right, this is my final and preferred method for removing the bladders from these boats. So you saw me the first time picking up all of the individual stainless steel staples with a pick and then straightening them, and it was quite laborious and a little bit, it was just boring and took a long time. I ended up using this process, which worked really, really well. So angle grinder, yes, I know there's no guard on it. Yes, I know I'm not using goggles. And I put a flat wheel on it, a flappy wheel. And as long as you move and don't stay in the same place, it just takes the top of the stainless steel staples right off the top. It literally takes them off down to the material. And you end up with a very easy job. It took, I'm going to say, half an hour probably to get everything out, or to remove the tops of them, and then the same old process of pulling it out, giving it a tug, and making sure that you split the seams at the bottom part of the boat where it goes into that kind of ear shape that you would have seen. Widen that out a little bit, and job's a good one.
So here we go. So another transom that definitely needed replacing, as you can see. Sorry about the sweat. It's 30 degrees today here in the UK, which is a little unusual, and I'm not built for heat. Anyway, it came out. So about an hour roughly, bit of tugging and pulling, which you didn't get to see too much of in that last part of the video, but it works. And I would say, just to keep you sane, if you're careful, you can use a flat wheel, take off the majority of the top of the stainless steel staples pretty easy, and then that gives you access to this. You've still got to turn the boat over and use a screwdriver to pull them out, but it's a lot faster, and no harm done. It's good.
Once you've taken the bladder out, where the staples have come through, it lifts it slightly, so there's some raised edges. I just used the wheel again very quickly, scurfing over the top to remove those.
So just before I start actually fitting this, I'm just going to use a bit of acetone. To get that done. So I'm quite happy. As you can see, the boat kind of takes its own shape once it's released. I'm going to leave it like that and then pin things as they go. Areas of concern for sealing it are the central area here. I'm going to be using a bit of the 5200 M3 adhesive sealant to do that, and also the same for these edges here. I prise them apart with a screwdriver to allow the tape to go through on both sides, and then what I think I'm going to do is I put the transom in, I'll peel back one at a time, and hopefully it'll locate okay, and then I can clamp that into place and start putting some initially rivets in to hold it in place, and then follow that up in sequence with the stapling. So I've got myself some stainless steel staples. They're not as strong, I don't think, as the ones that came out. I've really struggled to find staples of a very similar thickness that the Porta-Bote guys use, but they're pretty strong, and I think I'll put a few extra rivets in just to allow it to mechanically stay strong, so the staples can just do their job in terms of surface area and pinching that tape down to make it watertight. Let's see how we get on. Okay, so I've used the M3 tape, which is stuck down. It sticks okay, pins it down. It's a VHB tape, which is a very similar size to the tape that's used by Porta-Bote, a little bit more narrow, so I pushed it back from the edge. I put a little bit of M3 5200 sealant in the edges where you spread these two parts here. It's not very clear, but you'll see it when you're doing it. You kind of damage the original tape just by spreading it to get the VHB tape in and yada yada. So I put a bit of that in, and I'm also going to do it from the outside and push that in a little bit, which hopefully will allow us to get a better seal around this one part here. It's actually quite hard to see how it's sealed properly, but there you go. Right, so that's one. I'm going to do it on the other side as well. I put a little bit in this crease here, just underneath the tape, to take that up. And hopefully that'll be good enough as well. There's a piece of rubber that comes out of these when you take the old transom off, which ideally needs to go back on. I'll show you that.
So at this stage now, I've effectively completed two boats actually. The lower one, which was the one that I kind of hand picked all the staples up and out, which was quite laborious. Worked okay. I mean, wasn't the worst. And then I used galvanized staples instead of stainless steel staples. Well done me. Which haven't worked great. They're already starting to show signs of corrosion. And then the one above, which was just a few lessons learned. Used obviously a flappy wheel on an angle grinder to get most of the staples off. Brilliant job, really works well. Doesn't damage the hull of the boat particularly, or at all I should say. And then also I used genuine stainless steel staples to put it together. So at this stage, all I've really got to do now is think about some of the missing parts that I didn't have.
So having fixed most of the boat, now this is the last thing I have to do, is just to make a transom. Well, I'm making two transoms actually for the two boats I have. Both of them need a transom. One was missing, and then one came with a homemade transom, which actually I think contributed to the damage that was done on the boat. Anyway, so I'm going to be cutting it out using my CNC machine, which is a bit of a cheat, but I think really if I wanted to I could make the thing by hand. It would just take me a lot longer. So let's see how that works. I'm hoping I've got it right first time, both because I don't have to buy any more wood and also because it's a pain in the bum to keep changing things. But yeah, let's see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be great.
So the transom's been cut and pretty much finished. I'll show you that in a second. So this is about the first boat, which is Genesis 3 that we're repairing. So I needed a transom for that because the one that I'm going to show you here came with it, and it's an awful thing. I'm not sure if it's an original. I can't believe it is. I'm a little suspicious it might be, but no, it's a dreadful piece of wood. Certainly far too flexible to put a reasonable sized motor on the back of it. So needed to go. So let's get rid of that. Just before I lift up the transom that's been made, some of you will be very familiar with this. This is the vacuum form unit that comes with certainly my other boat, the boat I use at the moment, which is a Genesis 5, I think. So vacuum form, nice rigid design. I quite like it as a design, I've got to say. And it's about 6.2, 6.3 kilos, so relatively light. But I've got one of these, but the two scrapper boats I've bought, both the Genesis 3 and the used Genesis 5, came with, in one case, a bad transom, which I've just shown you. The other one had no transom at all. So I've got to make two new transoms. One's done. So let's put this down and have a quick look at the transom that's been made. Which is this one, which has come out really well, actually. So this unit weighs about 6.8. So it is a little bit heavier than the vacuum form transom, but honestly I think it's such a small difference that it makes no difference, if that makes any sense at all. So what I've done here is I've designed it slightly differently from the vacuum form one. It's taller. I did that on purpose. I had this bizarre idea I might put a couple of Mercury 3.3s on there at some stage for some extensive touring. And then I've also built in some aluminium extrusions. They're very cheap. They look quite nice, and that gives them a degree of rigidity, but also I can slide some captive nuts into that, so I can start attaching things to the transom at some stage. A little pole with a light on it, you name it, first aid kit, fishing rod. It's pocketed 25mm marine ply, so pocketed as in I've reduced the weight, and also as a little homage to the vacuum form version, given it these little pockets which seem to work and look quite nice. I've also doubled the width of the base there to give it a bit more surface area when it's down in the bottom of the boat, and obviously remade the aluminium pieces on the side, the angle pieces, to allow it to have probably a better or more fixing holes in the side. We'll see. And then stainless steel fixings all the way through. That's the back of it. Very smooth dome heads. I'm just going to give it one more coat of satin polyurethane spray and then pop it in a boat, and I'll show you what it looks like. So it's got its new bladder transom sheet in, which I've tested and is waterproof. Not certainly water going out the boat. Let's see, we'll have to see when we put it in the water properly. Transom's in. Looks good, I think. Oh, no, I know I made it, but looks pretty good. Very rigid, just giving it a good old shake, and I'm quite happy with that. Got fairly large pieces of aluminium angle on there, so if I did feel it was worth it, I could add another bolt and washer to it to give it even more strength across that. But as I say, I've got other plans to try and strengthen it if I need to put a bigger motor in, but it looks good. So what do you do if you don't have a Porta-Bote seat or seats? You can make your own. So these are effectively, well, this one of three, was produced on our CNC machine, but you can do it by hand. I pocketed this version, so there's air trapped inside, and it actually makes it relatively light. Not as light as the actual Porta-Bote seats themselves, but pretty close again. So I don't think it would really affect the performance of the boat too much. Learned how to bend wire. That was a little tricky. It took me a while to work out how to get the bends the same all the way around on a relatively basic bender. I've got that sorted. Naturally, the thing I like about these is they fold really flat. So if you've got a Porta-Bote, you'll know it's a bit of a bloody nuisance when they don't quite fold properly. So when you throw them in the bag, it just takes up a bit of extra air. I know it's only a small thing, but these things annoy me. But they've come out quite well. I've just put a satin varnish on them to help seal them. Yeah, really quite pleased with it. What I've done here is I put some metal inserts in. This is the rear seat. I put 3 in for a couple of reasons. One is to help the pin not pull through the wood, if that's good English, I'm not sure. But basically I was worried about the wood wearing out as the boat flexes, which it does, and then eventually wearing through the wood and pulling through. So I put these metal inserts in to do that, but I put 3 in because I tend to find that the position of the seat is a little close to the back. I wanted it further forward, so I've given myself 3 positions to use, plus I've put some extra holes into the metal slides in the boat so I can bring it reasonably far forward now. So all good, little aluminium blocks there, just to take the stress and the strain of the wire stands, or the wire legs. Yeah, good to go. Let's put it in the boat and see what it looks like. Job done. And as you can see, they look really good. Just a bit of ply, marine ply to be fair. Obviously you saw I used the machine to cut them out. They could be done quite manually. It's a bit of a longer process, but I decided that I wouldn't do that. But they're pocketed, so they're light as I've described already. And they look good in the boat. Managed to bend all the wires that I needed to use the same process, or same supports I should say, that Porta-Bote themselves use, which actually after I used the tool for 20 minutes seemed to be quite straightforward. So we're kind of ready to go. So new bladder, new transom, new seats, and I guess you know, we won't know until it all works out, until it's in the water, but I'm pretty hopeful it'll be good fun and it'll work just as it's supposed to.
Well, look, thanks very much for watching that. I just want to wrap up on this one really. It's ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but there's a few things I just wanted to mention, cover, show, so hopefully it's not been too bad. Great little boats. I think that they're a bit of a bargain if you can keep your eyes on the local ads to see if you've got any ones that are being either thrown out or damaged, because in my opinion the repair is pretty easy and not very expensive, and you end up with a boat you can just keep in the corner of the garage on the floor, hang it from the ceiling, bung a small outboard motor on it, and you're good to go, whether you're fishing or just having a bit of fun. So that's it really. Thanks for watching. I really do hope that you got something from it, and that if you're having a crack at repairing that transom or bladder piece at the back yourself, you can see that really just with a bit of thought and some strong coffee, it's quite easy to do. All the best.